Chapter 2. You can stay and sit with me for a few minutes, can't you? His sister asked, already pulling out a chair at the closest table and gesturing to the one across from it. Well, it's quiet in here. I need a break anyway. Bennett glanced around the temporarily empty pumpkin spice and then back at his sister Jeanie. She flashed him her sweetest smile. Please, I do actually have to work while I'm here, he grumbled, but sat down anyway. He was visiting Dream Harbor for a month, living in his sister's apartment above the shop, while she got settled at her new house, and he was staying to celebrate the holidays. But he did have to work. He'd set things up to work remotely for the next few weeks, which plenty of his other coworkers already did regularly, but Jeanie seemed to think he was on an extended vacation, just for a few minutes. Geez, do they not give you coffee breaks at this job of yours? They do, but it's the week after Thanksgiving. I have a lot to catch up on. Right, computery work to do. He nearly opened his mouth to explain to his sister for the umpteenth time that he was a software engineer and that he wrote code for multiple online retailers. But he'd given up on that years ago. Probably around the time when she started telling people he was some kind of personal online shopper, for lack of a better explanation. Computery work was close enough. So what did you do yesterday? Jeanie asked in between sips of her coffee. Her new engagement ring glinted at him from one hand wrapped around her mug. Logan had proposed to her just before Thanksgiving, and Bennett had had to endure the two of them making hard eyes at each other for the entire 7-hour drive back here from Buffalo, where they'd all spent Thanksgiving with their parents. He'd been very thankful to have his own space when they arrived in Dream Harbor, and to have a break from the lovebirds. Logan was a good guy and Bennett was happy for them, but the ring was another little reminder of how epically bad his dating life had been lately. He couldn't imagine going on a second date with most women he'd met, let alone commit to a lifetime together. Was long-term commitment a thing people even did anymore? Nothing much. Slept in, took the dogs for a walk. He shrugged. Where'd you take the dogs? The old Christmas tree farm up on Spruce. Jeanie's eyes widened. Oh yeah, would have been nice if you'd mentioned the new owner. Sorry, I forgot all about it. Bennett leaned back in his chair, remembering the woman he'd met in the fields yesterday. The woman who'd simultaneously greeted his dogs with such warmth and affection, and frozen him out completely. Who looked like maybe she was in the middle of some kind of crisis, but held herself like she was better than him. Who, when he offered her help, had made fun of him instead. Yeah, he wasn't a big fan of the new Christmas tree farm owner, despite how cute she'd looked all wrapped up in that blanket, and how bright her smile had been when she was petting his dogs. Ben knew plenty of cute women and cute wasn't worth the trouble. In fact, all cute had gotten him in the past few months was roped into helping a woman he just met move out of her ex's apartment while the ex begged for forgiveness from the front porch. A second date with someone he met on a dating app that consisted of a quick drink, and then her asking for a ride to the airport, which he gave her because what else was he supposed to do? And 3 separate women who all disliked dogs, one of whom seemed to have a strong dislike for animals in general. He'd seen her scowl at a bird. The last thing he needed was another cute woman. He was done with cute women. Did you run into Kira? Jeanie asked, a guilty grimace on her face. Bennett shook off the grim thoughts floating through his head and refocused on Jeanie. If Kira is the hostile new owner, then yes, I met Kira. She's... Jeanie paused, tapping her lip as she searched for a kinder word to describe Kita. She didn't find one. Yeah, she's sort of hostile, but I think she's probably got a soft spot somewhere. We just have to find it. I don't have to find anything. I have to get back to work, he said, rising from his seat. Besides, he already knew what Kira, the hostile Christmas tree farm owner's soft spot was. He'd heard her croon sweet words to his dogs, her dark eyes lighting up at the sight of them. If the residents of Dream Harbor wanted to get on her good side, he imagined all they'd have to do is head up there with a basket of puppies and Kira would be putty in their hands. But he had about 0% interest in getting involved in town drama, of which he already knew too much, thanks to Jeanie. And even less interest in having Kira in his hands. Jeanie frowned. You work too much. Ha, Bennett scoffed. Says the woman who runs her own successful business, and is here all the time. Which I'm very proud of you for, by the way. Thanks, Ben. Jeanie waved away his praise as she stood. Oh, I have a great idea. Her eyes lit up in a way Bennett found to be incredibly ominous. You should come to the town meeting tonight. I'm going to have to pass on local politics, but thanks. Anyway, no, it's fun. It's a whole thing and you can meet my friends and then we all go out for drinks after. Please, Ben. Don't look at me like that, Jean-Marie. Like what? Bennett sighed. He had never been very good at saying no. hence the moving services and airport rides he'd provided lately, but his sister made it particularly hard, with those big eyes. You know exactly what you're doing. It'll be fun, I promise. And besides, aren't you here to spend time with me? The loving sister you abandoned to live all the way on the other side of the country? Excuse me, you left Buffalo before I did. His sister still didn't know the real reason he'd moved out to San Francisco after college, and he had no plans to fill her in. Jeanie blinked. Oh, right. I forgot. Whatever, just come, okay? It starts at 7. She brushed a quick kiss to his cheek before hurrying back behind the counter, just as a group of retired folks in workout gear ambled in through the door. How was your walk today, chilly out there? He heard his sister chatting happily to her customers as he slipped away and up the back staircase to the apartment. He was greeted by 3 wagging tails and a pile of work to do. And apparently, tonight he was attending the town meeting. This wasn't even close to a vacation, despite what his sister believed. Bennett didn't know what to expect from a Dream Harbor town meeting, but the raucous laughter and raised voices he encountered when he walked through the doors were certainly not it. He squeezed past a group arguing about the appropriate time to start listening to Christmas music. Nearly got knocked out by a woman in a power suit carrying a giant metal menorah, and was about ready to turn around and leave when he was grabbed by the arm and pulled into a row of chairs. Bennett, you're here. A face he had only ever seen from the screen of his phone beamed at him. Jacob, from his sister's book club, pulled him in for a hug. Hey man. Yeah, I'm here. Here in this bizarre town, feeling more and more like he'd gone down some kind of rabbit hole and landed in another world entirely, and he thought San Francisco was quirky. Good to see you. Jacob pulled away but was still holding tight to his arms. I can't believe Jeanie roped you into coming to one of these. Are you coming out for drinks after? Yeah, apparently. Great. Jacob gave him one last squeeze before letting go. Bennett glanced around at the still buzzing crowd. Although people were starting to find seats now, not that their volume had decreased at all. Are these things always so crazy? Yeah, but they're usually good for a laugh. Ben nodded, distracted by the woman in the suit struggling to run a cord long enough to plug in the giant menorah. Maybe he should go help her. That's the deputy mayor, Jacob said, following Ben's gaze. She's probably testing that old thing out for the tree lighting festival next weekend. There you are. Jeanie came up behind him before he could untangle himself from Jacob long enough to go help with the menorah. Here I am. Sorry we're late, she said, unwinding a giant scarf from around her neck. Logan stood behind her like he was being marched to his death. Hey Logan. Bennett. His sisters gave him a nod and a small pained smile before he shuffled into the row and took a seat. And this is Hazel and Noah, Jeanie was saying, pointing to the 2 other humans trying to cram into the already crowded row. Hey, nice to meet you. Noah stuck out a hand and Bennett shook it around Jeanie's shoulder. Noah grinned. First town meeting, huh? You're gonna love it. Bennett was starting to highly doubt that. The small curly-haired woman next to Noah must be Hazel, whom his sister talked about all the time. She gave him a little wave as she sat in between Noah and Jeanie. Bennett took the only open seat between Jeanie and Jacob. Logan had managed to scoot his way all the way down the row and was currently reading a book as he leaned against the wall, clearly blocking out the chaos around him. If everyone could settle down, we'll get started. A man with glasses and a hideous Christmas tie was trying to get everyone's attention from behind the podium. That's the mayor, who also happens to be Hazel's dad. Jeanie narrated for him. Oh, and here's Annie. A tall blonde woman swept into the row ahead of them. What did I miss? She asked, turning to face Jeanie as soon as she was seated. Nothing yet. Oh, but this is my brother Bennett. Nice to meet you, he said, sticking out his hand, but Annie ignored it. Ben. Hi, I've heard so much about you. Her gaze flicked from Jeanie to Ben and back again. Jeanie, you didn't tell me your brother was like a hot male version of you. I don't normally think of him as hot, actually. Annie's eyes were on him again. She was objectively beautiful and definitely trouble, but it didn't matter anyway, because her gaze had already wandered and landed somewhere past his right shoulder. Bennett turned just in time to see a dark-haired man wiggle his fingers in a wave at Annie. When Bennett turned back around, she was glaring daggers at the man. He's here again. I thought he'd stopped coming to these. That's Mac, Jeanie whispered for his sake, even though Annie could obviously still hear her. Annie's arch nemesis. We're all waiting for them to finally sleep together and put us out of our collective misery. Annie huffed. How dare you? Jeanie just laughed and shrugged. Ben knew when it was best to stay quiet, and now when he had absolutely no idea what the hell was going on seemed like a good time. "Attention, everyone." The mayor tried again, but was cut off by a shrill whistle. The crowd flinched. Thank you, Mindy," the mayor said, and the power-suited menorah-angling lady gave him a serious nod before taking her seat in the front row. "We have a lot to discuss this evening with the tree lighting rapidly approaching, the children's pageant in just 2 weeks, and the toy drive that began yesterday. So let's get started." The rest of the meeting went by in a blur of logistics, volunteering, arguing, and a very odd vote about whether or not Die Hard was a Christmas movie. Bennett tried to keep up, but following along proved to be impossible. Instead, he found himself scanning the room, trying to match faces with stories Jeanie had told him over the past year. He spotted the book club pretty easily since he'd seen and heard them in the background of his phone calls with Jeanie. They'd even left a copy of their latest read on his doorstep as a welcome gift, and a hint that they wanted him to attend their December meeting. He'd taken one look at Daddy December, and was already thinking up ways to be busy that day. The last thing he needed was to read about sex when he hadn't had any in months. He needed something about monks or meditation or suffering or something like that, not Santa smut. And why did thoughts of sexy books bring his thoughts back around to that Christmas tree farm owner? She was so rude to him. Not sexy mean. Just plain mean. And well. Sure, he'd been trespassing, but he hadn't known he was. And he did offer to help with whatever computer issue she was clearly having, and she just shut him down completely. It was well. It had gotten under his skin for, sure, like a splinter. A splinter he couldn't seem to stop picking at. What was her deal? Why had she been out there all alone? Why had she been wearing a blanket instead of a proper coat? Was she cold? Did she want someone to keep her warm? Nope. Bad. Not going down that road with this strange woman. He knew nothing about her, and he was not going to let his overdeveloped need to fix things get in the way of his holiday. He didn't even live here. Kira North was nothing but a quirky character to add to what he knew about Dream Harbor, nothing else. He would absolutely stop thinking about warming her up. The room had gone quiet around him. He may have let his mind wander a bit too far, because at some point the meeting had taken a turn, and now he found himself the center of attention. I was just mentioning that you met Kira yesterday," Jeanie said with a smile that chilled him to the bone. If he'd been 8 and she'd been 10, he'd have flushed her Barbie's head in the toilet all over again. "Wonderful," the mayor was saying, oblivious to Bennett's revenge fantasy. "We could really use a neutral party to go up there and check on her." "Neutral party," he echoed. "Wait, check on her?" "The town has been trying to welcome Miss North," the mayor went on, "but she's been resistant to our efforts. But you're just passing through. You're neutral. She wouldn't question your motives." "Well, that certainly wasn't true. And why does she need to be checked on exactly, single quotes, the mayor's face flushed red. "Just in case there's any dead bodies up there," someone offered from the back of the meeting hall. "Dead bodies? What the actual hell was going on?" Jeanie grimaced beside him. "It's not as bad as it seems," she whispered. "We have no proof that there's a dead body," the mayor said. "We also don't have proof that there isn't," Noah piped up helpfully, earning a smack on the thigh from Hazel. He just laughed and kissed her cheek. "Alex tells it best." "Where are they?" The mayor searched the crowd until a person with lavender hair stood up. "Hey everyone," they gave a little wave before launching into their story. So, the Connors owned that farm for generations, and when the youngest child Edwin took over, sometime in the 80s, he opened it up for families to come and cut down their trees for Christmas. It grew from there into the business a lot of you were familiar with for years. Edwin and his wife Ellen never had kids, but they ran the farm for about 40 years together. Well, Edwin was rather eccentric and rather unpredictable. "Scary, you mean?" someone shouted out from the audience. "Gave me the creeps for sure." "Me too." "Anyway," Alex went on, clearing their throat. "After his wife died, people saw less and less of Edwin, and the tree farm took a downward turn. When he died a few years later, a letter was found in the house." "This is the good part," Noah whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Alex smiled at him. "Right, so the letter claimed that he had buried something important, something precious to him on the farm, but it didn't say what or where. Plenty of us have wanted to search up there, but the land was left to some cousin, who was pretty adamant about not letting us snoop around. Highly suspicious if you ask me, Alex shrugged. So the legend is left unfinished. Bennett shook his head. And you all think the thing he buried ... was a body? His murdered wife specifically, Jacob filled in for him. What? She just disappeared one day. I think he buried her for... Sure. No way. I still think it's something else. Some kind of... treasure, Noah argued. Treasure, keep dreaming, sailor boy, an old man yelled from a few rows ahead of them, making Noah chuckle. It could be money though. He didn't have any family left. Maybe he hid all his cash instead of putting it in the bank, Corey suggested. A bit of a crazy theory. Crazier than a murdered wife and a dead body. Please, I think ... single quotes. But what about ... single quotes? Wait a minute. Bennett raised his voice over the cacophony of theories. Everyone shut up in surprise. What the hell does any of this have to do with Kira? He heard a snort from the end of the row. You don't want to know, Logan muttered. We wouldn't want our newest resident to experience the trauma of accidentally stumbling upon a horrific scene, the mayor explained like this was all very normal. So we just thought ... single quotes. You thought I could stumble over it instead? Bennett said, an eyebrow raised. The mayor winced. We just thought you could pay her a visit or two and help smooth things over. She's reopening the farm and we're so pleased. We just don't want any surprises. He wrung his hands in front of him. And she won't let any of the rest of us pass the front porch. The mayor's face lit up. But you ... you were able to get right in there. Jeanie told us you walked your dogs through the fields and chatted with her, so ... It seems you're the perfect candidate for the job. Bennett pinched the bridge of his nose and fantasized about researching flight information for the first plane back to San Francisco. I can't. I have to work. The mayor and every face that turned toward him looked highly skeptical of this. Remote work is still work, but it's flexible, right? Jeanie asked. Like you could just pop up there a few times before the farm reopens? Just to make sure there's no, skulls lying around or anything. Bennett looked at her and tried to convey just how much he wanted to bury her body right now, but she was completely serious about this. And when he looked around the room, so was everyone else. The entire town was recruiting him to go to their beloved Christmas tree farm and what? Scan for dead bodies? Find a secret stash of money? Solve the town mystery? And the hilarious part was, they thought Kira was actually going to let him in. The joke was on them. Judging by the way she'd looked at him yesterday, there was no way she was inviting him for afternoon tea and murder mystery solving anytime soon. But everyone was staring at him like they needed him to do this, and Bennett hated saying no, even to crazy villagers he barely knew. I can try, but ... wonderful, the mayor said, already moving on. So, Bennett will help with the Christmas tree farm opening. Okay, what's next? I can try, but it will never work, was what he'd been going to say. Not that it mattered. He'd been steamrolled, and now instead of a ride to the airport, he was apparently opening a Christmas tree farm, or working on a cold case, or treasure hunting. But most likely just getting kicked out on his ass by the latest scary Christmas tree farm owner.